August 29th will mark the 7th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina slamming into the Gulf Coast of the United States. It is the costliest natural disaster ever in the U.S., and it showed glaring weaknesses in the federal and state response to it. But there were heroes, among them the U.S. Coast Guard. CCTV's Sean Callebs has this report from New Orleans.
I really do enjoy flying. It's great. You bounce a lot out there. You're talking to a lot of people.
He may enjoy it, but Coast Guard helicopter pilot Eric Turner must be well trained and good at what he does. Every time he takes off, lives could be on the line.
I feel like we're always kind of training with, major disasters in mind.
That's why helicopters with rescue swimmers from Belle Chase Air Station, just outside New Orleans, do extensive work at Lake Pontchartrain. The Guard patrols the Gulf of Mexico, performs rescues from fishing boats and oil rigs. They venture into swamps and bayous and have to be prepared for the threat of summertime hurricanes.
We have people that are teenagers, 18, 19-year-old kids that are coming right out of boot camp that have never seen this before. They're like, holy crow, we got a helicopter that's 20 feet above us right now.
New Orleans presents a special challenge to the Coast Guard. About 80% of the city is below sea level. It's protected by hundreds of kilometers of levees and flood walls. Now, those barriers have undergone tremendous improvement since August of 2005. However, the specter of the killer hurricane is never far away.
The demise of all safety measures after Katrina blew ashore are well chronicled. Pilots saved hundreds of stranded New Orleanians, plucking them from rooftops.
You guys ready for a hoist brace?
So those life-saving techniques are practiced at least twice a week out on the water. Mist kicks up. The rotor wash creates havoc. A bad snag on the deck of the Coast Guard boat could spell disaster.
All the personnel here, we're constantly practicing and ready for maybe another Katrina.
Katrina had a life-changing impact on rescue swimmer Brian Johnson.
Saw a lot of the footage of what the Coast Guard did, and that was the beginning of when I decided that I wanted to be a rescue swimmer. It seemed like a very exciting job, and it really pushed me to want to go and help people.
Coast Guard boats and helicopters are constantly on the move around New Orleans. So often, most residents don't even give them a second glance. But the long hours paid off during Katrina.
All that training, all that hard work that we did, we actually use it, and we saved some 30,000 lives during that entire evolution.
So divers gutted out through one more plunge into murky Lake Pontchartrain, knowing next time it might not be a drill.
Sean Callebs joins us now on set with a closer look at the story. And Sean, you mentioned this is hurricane season. Yeah. August 29th is the anniversary. We're in the middle of August right now and into September. And it looks like these guys are totally ready.
Yeah, they really are. If you talk to every one of them from the top down, Katrina taught them a lesson. You always have to be prepared. And what we know about hurricane season, it really kicks into full gear in the United States in late August and all through September. So right now, these guys who train at least 2 to 3 times a week out on that lake, they are probably going to be pressed into duty at some point. And you think, well, could it happen again? Well, no one knows the strength of the levees. 350 some miles, more than 500 kilometers that protect the whole New Orleans area. That's like going almost from Washington, D.C. to Boston. And if you lose a couple of 100-yard chunks of that levee, that city could flood again, and we could have to see those guys being put back into service, rescuing people again.
What does New Orleans look like now? I mean, has the Gulf Coast recovered, so to speak? I mean, there was a lot of talk a couple of years after Katrina that it just looked the same. It looked like a disaster zone.
Well, in many areas it has recovered a great deal, but it's changed. It's not the New Orleans that it was before there, but the tourists don't see a lot of the impoverished areas that are struggling, like parts of the lower Ninth Ward, New Orleans East, Gentilly areas. Those are the areas that came back last. If you go to the French Quarter, if you go to the Business District, if you go to Uptown, the Garden District in New Orleans, you'll never know that the storm hit. But for the people who live there, they'll never forget. I mean, I lived there for 5 years. That is indelibly marked on the souls of the people who live there. It changed a lot of people forever, and they're always going to be coping with it, and they're always worried about anytime they see that counterclockwise spin move into the Gulf of Mexico, people always get concerned about what could happen.
You know, you called these guys heroes. Do they consider themselves heroes? And do the people of New Orleans still remember what they did? Or
Oh yeah, the people of New Orleans remember the people who saved them. They do. They also remember the government who left them standing
from the rooftops, right?
Right, from the rooftops, from their trees, from really anywhere, on top of cars in the area where it was lower. I mean, the flooding went from just a couple of feet in some areas to 20. Almost 20 feet in other areas. I mean, you're talking massive flooding, 80% of that city. But they do remember the Coast Guard because they saved so many lives. I've talked to these guys who actually performed the rescues back then, and who knows, a Coast Guard helicopter pilot may save a handful of people in his or her life because it's that rare. You talk to these guys, I saved 123 people, I saved 138 people. So, you know, these guys are heroes.
Okay, Sean, Callebs, thank you so much for that report.